Welcome to Make Today Count, your 60 minutes of fresh conversation served up to inform, educate and inspire your personal brand. I'm your host Ross Dean, and each episode I chat to thought leaders, influencers and experts in their game who all have one thing in common: the desire to go the extra mile, pushing against the status quo to create a richer life for both themselves and those around them. Powered by compassion and driven by the need to leave the world that little bit better than when they arrived. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to Make Today Count. Another fantastic guest for you today in Aaron Clarke. Aaron, how you doing?
Very good, thank you, Ross.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's really great to connect. We've just realised that we're just down the road from each other.
Yes.
So that makes it even better. And I'd spent some of my childhood at my nan's, close to where you live.
Yes.
And, you know, it brings back some lovely memories from Colchester, and spent many time down there. And also you've just opened up fantastic new tattoo studio over in Ipswich, where I am as well. So
Yes,
to make those connections there. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today, because I think it's about a topic, you know, anxiety is something that's spoken about a lot, especially in this lockdown period. But what we want to touch upon today is something, a kind of a topic that people haven't really touched upon, I don't think, too much. And that's getting back into their day-to-day. So looking forward to getting into that. Before we do though, if people haven't come across your content, Aaron, and the stuff you do with Monumental, can you just give us a bit of a background about you know, how you got to where you are today?
Yes, of course. And thanks for having me on, Ross. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'll try and make this as quick as possible, because I don't want to go on too much, but try and have a bit of an overview and cover as much as possible at the same time. So quite simply, I'm a working class guy from, you know, your typical council estate upbringing, comprehensive school. I sort of roughed it at school. I didn't get on very well at school. I hated school. I wasn't very good academically. I was small. I was bullied. I was anxious all my life, which I didn't realise until I was older, when I even realised what this word anxiety was. On leaving school, obviously I had no education, didn't really know what to do. Before long, I started my own business at the age of 21. That led me down an entrepreneurial path. Since then, I've built 3 other companies. And one of those is a tattoo brand. And as you say, we've just opened a new studio there in Ipswich, Suffolk, which I'm super excited about. Along my journey and alongside all this stuff, I've suffered from and battled with anxiety, depression, general mental health issues. And I imagine all the issues that a lot of people, young men and women, of doubt, fear, frustration, anger, all these emotions have been there in the background, and they've held me back. And to get to where I wanted to get in business, one of the things I learned very early on is that your business will only ever grow as much as you do. And that is, as well with the mental health, sent me down a pathway of personal development, because I started to get something from it. I went to a Tony Robbins course when I was 21. And since then I've had this thirst and passion for it. And I now I'm a sponge for information on personal development. I read books just constantly. I mean, when I was tattooing myself personally, I used to listen to audiobooks while I was tattooing, and I would sometimes consume a book a day. Over the course of 6-7 years, I consumed a lot of information. And I've also been on a lot of courses with Success Resources, the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and I'm here today now, in this space, in this place where, you know, we're financially free. I'm living life in a very different way to my upbringing. I've dealt with a lot of issues personally, and I'm kind of here to sort of inspire, help motivate and support other people. That's kind of my passion now, alongside business.
Yeah. You know, and for a lot of people that I speak to on the podcast, often what they're doing now and what they're really passionate comes out of like either a situation or a trigger, that in their past where they kind of felt, this is enough now, I've had enough of this and I want to go in this direction. Was there a key moment for you, or was it kind of just like a general kind of thing for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, for me it was a kind of a suppression. As I say, from the age of 16, I went and worked for a stonemasons, and I was suppressed for a lot of years. I think depression is a kind of suppression of our greatness, if I'm honest, partly. I was suppressed. I was bullied at work. I was held back. I was pushed down. And I always knew there was something inside me. And like a coiled spring, eventually I got there and I made the change. But it was kind of like, what's worse? Do I cope and deal with this, distracting myself, this little tapping in the head saying, you could do more, you could do more, and sort of trying to get rid of that thought with distraction? Or do I step into the fear and the uncomfortableness? Either way, they're both pretty miserable. You either live a life of sort of low-level suffering or a life of constant discomfort. And I had to choose the discomfort.
Yeah,
I can't help myself.
And I know that a lot of your content now is focused towards men, and
yes,
and kind of I guess just bringing that conversation to the forefront, because traditionally men haven't been that great about kind of talking about some of this stuff. And I know in your book, Yes You Can, which I've started to digest now, which I encourage people to today, and that link will be in the comments as well. Awesome. You speak about conditioning, and something that I think I can certainly relate to, and I think a lot of men can relate to, and that the way in which kind of conversations that you have in your younger times or your younger periods of life can often shape how you then see yourself, and then that it's kind of a snowball effect, isn't it? You kind of pick up stuff and pick up stuff and pick up stuff. Do you kind of see that as kind of one of the main things where kind of we kind of pick up some of this stuff from, if it's anxiety or this kind of stuff?
Yes, absolutely. I strongly believe, and this isn't just made up of anywhere, it's from my own life experience, but also having read copious amounts of books and studies on it, and spent time with life coaches and therapists, that what happens to us when we're younger at a certain age, the environment we grow up in, the things we hear, like money is the root of all evil, these type of sayings, they literally create the way we see the world. They create the blueprint, our beliefs about people, the world, and therefore, and from beyond that point, when we get older, we're living life on autopilot. Decisions that we make, fears, doubts, everything has been absorbed. When we're born, we're only born with sort of two fears, and that's, I think, fear of loud noises and fear of falling to keep us safe. Everything else is learned behavior. So, for example, if you tend to be an unconfident person, that unconfidence was learned. Perhaps you stood up in class and everyone laughed at you. For example, I'm sure everybody can relate to a sense of conditioning here. For example, your Suffolk accent and my Colchester accent. That's a learned. That's learned. Everything is learned, and therefore everything can be unlearned. And so I believe that the key to getting what we want largely is to turn inwards, look at ourselves. We need to look at the way we've been programmed, question that, and look to reprogram if we're not happy with the results we're getting in life.
Yeah. I think a great example, going back to the book again, is you mentioned about in your past experience is you were kind of told that you were shy, or you were labeled as being shy. And that's certainly something I could relate to, because I had a similar kind of situation, and it's so true, isn't it? What we believe, we just carry on. So you kind of think, well, if that person, even if it's just in passing, if someone just mentions a flippant comment, he's being a bit shy, it's like, oh, I must be shy then, and you carry on, and then you just keep that, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because then when you become an adult and you become a father, or you get married, or that kind of thing, all those things just carry on with you, and you kind of got this backpack of all this stuff going on, and as far as you're aware, you haven't done anything wrong, or you haven't
absolutely,
it's all isn't it? So until you get to the point where you think, maybe this isn't working out how I want it to, what could it be? And then you start looking at some of this stuff. And I think that's the key, I think everyone will come to these points at their own time. Everyone's journey is different.
Yes.
And everyone has that trigger point. But, I think this conversation really is for those people, both male and female, because we're speaking right across the board today.
Absolutely.
We've been in a really kind of challenging time the last few months, whether it's been on a business level, on a work level, if you're employed by someone, or maybe just day to day. A lot of us, we were just speaking before about having to homeschool children and that kind of stuff, and having that responsibility, which is huge when you think about it. We take a step back and sort of think about, you've been teaching your kids for 3 months. It's something not to be taken very lightly.
Absolutely.
We are returning back to normal life, or the new normal, as people are kind of saying, and be it for business or just generally day-to-day work. We connected because I saw some content that you'd done around, I guess it was acknowledging having anxiety or being anxious around this time, not so much on the fact of the lockdown period, all that, that's another thing, but getting back. So going from the point where you've had a new normal, which you've had at home, it's been an area of safety, I guess, to a certain extent, but then we're having to move back into that life. So can you just talk to that a little bit, and kind of what your thoughts are around that piece of content that you put down?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, as you say, we're in times that we've never seen before for a lot of our generation. Well, actually, for most people, we've had difficult times in history, but this is very unique. And when there's a sort of a crisis or anything uncertain happens, it triggers this response in us, which is usually sort of a form of anxiety. Anxiety plays havoc with uncertainty, and we're in very uncertain times. And I think what compacts and compounds this is that we've all spent a lot of time at home, and we've all got very comfortable in a sense. Although we are uncomfortable, we're very comfortable at home. We've been isolated. We've been away from those uncomfortable situations that we perhaps normally deal with on a daily basis, that actually become the norm. So, for example, if your job is, ringing around, making phone calls every day, or dealing with people, or dealing with customers, obviously everyone's situation will be different, but everybody will have elements of their life on a daily basis that tend to be uncomfortable, that they've been allowed to be away from, and bask in this place of mass comfort where you can lounge in your pajamas all day. You've not got an answer to everyone. Everything's comfortable. There's no stress, and that is lovely. But the problem is, we know that only lasts for so long. Some people have already gone back to it. Some people are still anxious about it coming. And of course, not only that, how the world's going to be. That causes, the uncertainty causes a lot of anxiety. And I think one of the keys to getting over that anxiety is to do some work on yourself, basically. Turn in and face it. It's learning to make small steps to get uncomfortable again, back to that place. So, as I say, I go through waves of myself, but I'll try and do little things to make myself uncomfortable, to build that discomfort muscle ready for going back to real life. It's to sort of trying to look for proactive ways to turn and face this anxiety, rather than just feeling it and letting it consume us.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's exactly right, in that, I find that for me, what works best is, like you say, just really small steps on a daily basis. I think sometimes when if you're listening to this and maybe you've had feelings of anxiety for a while, or maybe it's something that's new that's come out of this situation. I think for some people, it's kind of like, right, I need to stop this and I need to do something. And they go and try and do a ton of different stuff and expect to kind of turn it around, instantaneously. And it's, in my experience and from what I'm hearing, it's similar with you, Aaron, is that it's just small steps on a kind of a daily basis to kind of push you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's everyone be coming from a different place, and some people may, for example, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal for 1 minute, but some people will, just for the fact I'm talking on a podcast. So let me say this, I barely slept last night. I've had an anxious belly all morning. I've meditated about 10 times just to gear myself up for this podcast. But some people might be thinking, oh, wow, he's super confident. I could go on a podcast. Not at all. Not at all. I've done a few podcasts now. I'm always anxious as hell. The difference is I've managed to, through steps, do these things. I know it will be okay because I've done it before. I'm not going to get hurt. I have to work with that part of my mind that's trying to keep me safe. That's actually what it's trying to do. I have to work with that, give it some attention and go through the motions. And therefore I would have done this podcast today. I'll have build a little building block on my confidence, and my anxiety will be less next time I have to do something uncomfortable, as an example.
Yeah, exactly that. It's relative to the person that we're talking about, and
for sure,
it's completely different for everyone. And the same with me. There's been periods throughout lockdown where I've sort of gone up and gone down, everything. But I know if I, one of the key kind of like I guess skills that I learned some time ago was looking back on what is the evidence to show that this is true. So if I'm feeling a certain way, what is the evidence to back up that this is true? And most of the time I can't think of any evidence to show this is true. It's just my monkey mind just playing tricks and going all over the place. So it's just kind of getting that needle back on course with what we need to do day to day. These, for anyone watching this and, they've experienced anxiety any parts of their life, whether it's through an ongoing thing or something that's key trigger points, these thoughts are really hard to shake off. We're not saying that these are things you could just do a few exercises and they're gone. Why are these ways in which we talk to ourselves so hard to shake off sometimes?
Well, I think from my perception is that a lot of the time we're not even aware. These thoughts enter our minds and consume us so frequently, and we're not aware of it. So we're just being anxious. We're being in a state of anxiety. And then we reflect, like, oh, I felt horrible yesterday. I felt terrible. Only can we even start making a change when we become aware that, I don't feel right. That's the first step, is even being aware that you're feeling anxious. As I say, when I was a child, as an example, I was just anxious all the time. I thought it was normal. I literally thought being anxious was a normal state because I didn't feel anything else. So the awareness is the first thing, really, and then questioning it. Why am I feeling like this? What is it? What am I thinking about in the future? What's happening tomorrow? What's happening next week? Or what am I thinking about in the past? Because it's usually something from one of those directions. And then, as you said, I think dissecting that, let's see if that thought is rational. Some people do it in their heads. I think it's very useful to write it on paper as well, because when you see it on paper, it sort of puts it in its place, and essentially it gets it out of your mind, and it allows it to then just pass by. I think that's a big thing about it. Is actually acknowledging the emotion. It just wants some attention. Yeah.
And, we all know that this has such a knock-on effect to other parts of our life. So it's not just in that moment, but generally the state in which you put yourself after feeling some of these thoughts can really change the course of your day. Just want to speak a little bit about that and your experience around, maybe for you in personally, how does having these thoughts and initially kind of start to maneuver your day in a different direction?
Well, a good little calculation to look at is how your thoughts will lead to your feelings, which will lead to your actions, which leads to your results. So if the thoughts you're thinking are ones about fear, what you're fearing about today, tomorrow, are filling you with anxiety, you feel anxious, you feel doubtful, unconfident, and fearful. Therefore, the actions you take are quite likely to be inaction, as in, no, I'm not going to do that thing. So it is very important, if you're feeling certain thoughts, to address them early in your day, because, you create your day. Everyone's had that thing where they get up in the morning and stub their toe on the end of the bed, and that sets the tone for the rest of the day. Trying to work with the emotions early on, face them, can help them dissipate, and then you can continue on your day without this, as you said before, this sort of baggage weighing on you. Because let's be honest, life is hard enough without all this emotional baggage on top of us, trying to, consume our minds, have us second guessing and making our lives even more difficult than, what they already are. So, yeah, trying to address the emotions, I think, is what I do now, because as the question about how does it impact my day, that's how, if it sets the tone for my day, I can be in my head all day long, and then it just, I can't wait to get home, and I'm wishing my days away otherwise.
No, definitely. And I think for a lot of people listening to this, they might think, well, I've never felt anxious before, or I've never had anxiety before. But often, I don't know if you'd agree that sometimes, this can come out in other kind of signals or kind of telltale signs in our behavior or our physiology and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Which you may not think is that, but have you come across that before in your own experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think emotions are funny things, very, very hard to pinpoint, because actually it can just be a reframing. Some people might not call it anxiety, they might call it excitement, which is a very positive way to frame it, for example. And it can be seen as that. So it really just comes back to that thing again, for everybody. Everybody's so unique, and they'll have their own way that they've come to this from their own backgrounds. And that's why, I think the most important thing is to work on yourself. That's what I'm so pro personal development, because the key is understanding yourself. What are your emotions? What are your triggers? What helps your day? What habits help your life? How does your mind think? What triggers your excitement, your anxiety, whatever emotion you're happy with or not happy with? When you gain that awareness of yourself, then you can better control and master your life, and then life tends to become easier. If you see what I'm saying.
No, definitely. And I think there'll be some people listening to this as well to kind of speak for them as well. Maybe where they've had anxiety for just a long time, and they've kind of tried stuff and it just kind of hasn't worked. And they, it might just be this conversation going on in their head, and it's like, I've tried this stuff, but it's not worked, and maybe I'm not good enough to kind of push through some of this stuff. What would you kind of say to them, Marin?
I would say, don't give up. Don't give up. Have hope. And I know that's tough, but it's the one thing we have to hold on to, is have some hope. And at the same time, and it's maybe quite harsh, but we're driven by either pleasure or pain. Okay. And for me, I made changes when it got too painful. And sadly, anywhere in the middle, people probably won't make any changes. Okay. They'll continue to live with their discomfort, And so I think having a real hard look at yourself, realizing life is short. And if you want to make changes, you want to live your life on a better level without these emotions, whatever emotions are burdening your life. The only way to conquer those is to look within, to spend some time in yourself, gain some awareness, and look to learn some tools to sort of work with these emotions, because there is a big, without going too deep, a big conscious shift. The world is obviously changing. It's getting faster, stronger, and harder. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, is because we're getting left behind. Our brains are not built for emotional intelligence, these ways to deal with these extra pressures and stresses and fast-paced life. So yeah, that would be my long-winded answer to those people. Just, I know that's deep, but start small. What little steps? Don't compare yourself. Stop looking what everyone else is doing on social media. They've got their own journey. You've got yours. If you do that, you'll get stopped straight away, and you'll go, "Oh no, there's no point. He's over there earning billions or doing whatever you think's amazing." What is your journey? What is your next step? What do you want to achieve this week? For some people, that will just be getting your ass off the sofa. Pardon my language. For another person, it might be starting another business. It's all relative, and nothing's, the ultimate goal is for you to be feeling better in your life.
And speaking to that, when you mentioned about just daily steps around some of this stuff, things that have kind of that kind of have worked for me, and kind of I tried to, exercise has been something that's been huge.
Yes.
It was never really something that I kind of focused on, but it kind of got to the point where I thought, I'm looking at all these different areas of my life, but that was one of the ones which I hadn't really sort of looked at. Probably around some story that I was telling myself around why I couldn't do some of this stuff.
Yes.
but since what is it now? Since like last September, October, really got into it. Really enjoy it now, and the kind of holistic offshoots of some of this stuff has been amazing.
Absolutely.
And just that ability to kind of clear your mind and get any aggression out, or whatever that means to
Of
you.
course. Yeah.
So that's been really good. For me also, meditation, you mentioned it before, has been super helpful. And
Yes.
that's kind of my go-to the first thing I do once I wake up.
Awesome.
And I think for a lot of people, I've done a podcast about meditation before, but if you're looking at a kind of an easy way to get into some of this stuff, apps like Headspace or Calm are a good kind of gateway to some of this.
Yes.
And they're not kind of, I think with meditation, it's definitely a lot better now. Would you agree? But before, it's kind of like this woo-woo thing that people, sometimes did.
Yes.
And it would seem to be unattainable, I think. But
Yes.
how does that kind of work for you? Is it kind of led up by an app, or do you do it yourself, or how does it work?
No, same as you. Headspace, that's the app I started getting on. I've been using it now for probably possibly 4 years. It is like a little tool that I have with me now, and it is good in the moment. It is good. Like I meditated before this to calm myself, calm my nerves, get in a good state, rather than allow my emotions to just rule me, which is what happens when we don't take the time to meditate. And I think that's, as you say, it was a bit woo-woo, all this stuff. A lot of things were, as I say, that's the era we come from, was it? That's, what you want about, that's a load of rubbish, that fixed mindset. But the biggest thing for me about meditation is the awareness element. The more aware you become of yourself and your emotions, and that itself allows you to separate more from that emotion, which may be difficult for some people to understand. But you may be feeling that anxiety, but what gives me relief when I meditate is that I'm almost separate from it, and I see it as a separate part of me, and that actually allows me some space to work on it and be okay with it. So it's been very helpful.
A learning that I had quite early on was that I used to kind of only use it kind of acutely. So when I was feeling a certain way, I would then meditate, which works to an extent. It was a bit like a sticky plaster, though, in that way.
Yes, absolutely.
And what I've found that, and this might be helpful for anyone listening, that if you can get into, even if it's a couple of minutes to start with, and just having it as a constant in your life, so having it a daily or a couple of times in the evening, if it helps you sleep and that kind of stuff, that's so much more beneficial. Just from my experience, if I can pass it on to you so they don't waste a ton of time, trying to use it on a daily basis, that's so helpful.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't experienced it before, how would you kind of describe it, Aaron, if you the kind of the feeling that you would get off the back of it?
I would say I'm calmer. I'm calmer, and I'm more rational. I'm more rational. And this is the thing. We're such emotional, impulsive creatures, especially in this new world of noise. And to have this sense of being calm rather than constantly reacting to every situation. Oh, I'm tired. Quick, I'll have a coffee. Oh, that person's annoying me. I'm going to do this. We spend our lives constantly bouncing off these walls of emotion that when we're just acting, and then we're kicking ourselves. Oh, why did I shout at the missus? I did. but all of a sudden, you start seeing things clearer. The missus will say something to me, and rather than reacting and shouting back, I'll stop a moment and see it. There's almost this space that's created. And as I say, it's essentially more control of my emotions is what I've gained from it. And the feeling I get from it. I'm more in control of myself. I trust myself more.
I can really relate to that, in that kind of feeling of a pause between kind of actions. From thoughts between actions, there's more of a pause rather than kind of a knee jerk. And
exactly that.
And for me, I always describe it to people as giving my brain a warm bath. That's kind of how I see it. So for me, the feeling that I get off it is kind of like a weighted kind of blanket over me, a warm weighted blanket that just kind of just goes through the whole body and just kind of like just takes the muscles and breaks them down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, even if you've tried it and you thought,
Yeah.
oh, just sit with it, and just to give it, even if it was, the great thing about Headspace and Calm and those kind of apps is that they often have like a 21 day kind of introduction thing, don't they? So,
Yes.
all you've got to do is just put your earbuds in and just let them do the work for you. You have,
Yes.
you haven't got to do a ton of stuff.
Sorry, I just wanted to say
you
also,
say.
I think one of the things that's really important as well, because a lot of people think, oh, they've got to, give up all this time. I think one of the great things to start is they are just some of the little meditations are 3 minutes. There's a little anger one that I use. It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes, 10 minutes. It's about starting. Most days I only meditate 10, 15 minutes, but it's about the consistency more than the time you do it. And so that's what I say to people, don't write it off, just try a little bit. It really allows you this escape. And I know you shouldn't use it for escapism, but it does. You can escape the intensity and noise of life.
Other than kind of exercise and meditation, anything else that you've kind of seen that's been really helpful to your journey?
What, through meditation or in general?
In general, so it's just any other kind of daily things that maybe that have been so beneficial for you that they just kind of drop into your day now.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. Let me just try and give you the sort of big ones, really. I think habits, looking at your habits is a really, really good thing. And one of mine is social media and or technology. And I started doing this a while ago now, and now it's just the normal to me. But I use my do not disturb. I have it scheduled on my phone at 8:30 at night. It goes on to do not disturb, and it will stay on till 8:30 in the morning. And that is so freeing. No one can change my mood and wind me up before bed. And the same in the morning. No one can change my mood for the day apart from me. I decide. Versus, some people, and I used to do it, wake up in the morning, grab your phone, start flicking up and down on social media, getting yourself wound up, look at them. Oh, no, I'm so crap. He's done this already. Blimey, he's been up since 5. He's amazing. I've just, and it's gained me again. That plus other parts have given me more control over my life and more calm and awareness to think, what do I want to do today? What do I want for breakfast? There's enough to decide without the noise of social media. So changing that habit was huge. Looking at other elements of my life, what are my triggers for depressive episodes? What's toxic in my life? Is it friendships? Is it too much alcohol? Are you taking too much drugs? What foods are you eating? These things are actually huge. They play a huge part in the way we feel. And as Tony Robbins will tell you, everything is all about a feeling. We're all looking for a feeling. That's what, when we buy anything, when we do anything, we're chasing a feeling. We just want to feel at peace, and we want to feel enough generally. So those things. Look at your life balance. What's out of whack? What needs some attention? And be kind to yourself.
Just before I forget as well, I spoke about exercise, but something that goes along with that is food for me as well.
Yes.
Because I love food, and food's a lovely part of my life. And for me that was often a go-to.
Yes.
If I was feeling a certain way, I used to think that I could rectify that with something nice to eat.
Yeah.
No, I think what really helped was upping the exercise, because I kind of thought, well, if I'm doing all this bloody work on this side, I'm just fueling myself in the wrong way in the other side. So it just wasn't beneficial. And it's true, we know the fundamentals of all this stuff innately ourselves. We hear about it every day on TV stuff, but there's we need something that kind of takes us over that edge, and whether it's you get fed up to a certain extent, I can't have this anymore, or in that circumstance it's like, I'm doing all this exercise, but I can't eat all this food anymore, and what I found is that you can eat this food, just not all the time. So for me it's like weekdays I eat really well, and then I have one day where we can usually a Saturday, if we go out for a meal or something like that, then I can enjoy that and have some balance there.
Awesome.
So also want to touch upon the book. Yes, You Can, which I've started to devour from yesterday. I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome.
Can you, I think for a lot of people, a book is something that a lot of people kind of always want to do. What was the kind of catalyst for you starting the book, and what you kind of did you want to achieve from writing it?
Yeah. So as I said, at the start, a completely very uneducated, formerly uneducated man who struggled academically, sort of ADHD, dyslexic, all that stuff. It was always sort of one of my biggest challenges. Think I could write a book. I mean, that's madness. But obviously, when we got to a point with our business where we become financially free, we moved to Spain, and we had this space and time. And I thought I just, I built myself up. I completely really reformed and changed myself as a person. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a book, and it's going to chapterize my life to this point, what I've learned, what I've done from all these courses. And I'm deeply, passionately motivated by trying to help other people. It really gets me deep because I connect with it myself, but feeling so held down by society, by other people, by bullies, just feeling pinned down, and I hate the thought of people feeling like that, people themselves beating themselves up so much, because that's what I've spent so much time in my life doing. I just want to help them, and that was really the motivation for the book, to motivate and to inspire people to get off the ground, because we are all built for so much more. The problem is we've got all this mud stuck to us, holding us down. People telling us we can't. Oh, you can't do that. That's too much for you. Who do you think you are? All this stuff that stops us right at the start. And I really want people to see their own greatness. Everyone knows it. Everyone's got it. Oh, I know I could do better, but they don't think they're good enough. They don't think they can. There's fears, all this stuff. And as I say, one of my businesses is the stonemasons. So we make memorial stones, and I've done that since a very, very early age, and I've seen how short life can be. And I think that's, to me, why it's quite a motivator. As far as we know, there's one life, and it can be short. And I just think, take that seriously. That will cause you some pain if you need to get off the ground. Think about how painful it would be to not have done the things you wanted to do in this life, basically.
Yeah. You mentioned there about how, throughout your school, and you kind of had challenges with writing and reading and some of that kind of stuff. I guess there's a lot of people in the same situation, and I'm just curious as to how the process was for getting your thoughts down in the book like this.
It was chaotic and mad, and it was a constant daily battle with self-defeating mental noise telling me, where do you think you are? Who's going to read this book? This is going to be rubbish. Making notes on my phone, bits of paper stuck everywhere. Oh, it was just an absolute pickle. I tend to be very chaotic and disorganized. But I've got a good support system around me, with my wife, my children. I have a business coach. I have a life coach. And these things keep me supported, along with my meditation, my other habits, and they keep me accountable and on point when these emotions and these thoughts start trying to take over. And that's how daily getting yourself off the ground, changing that mindset that's telling you not to, and keep going, having some grit,
And from your approach, was it just kind of like saying every day you're going to write some, or would you record stuff, spoken word, or how would you kind of go about it?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So while I was in Spain, every morning I would get up, meditate, walk, and I would just walk. I would get up and move. Motion equals emotion. It was a big thing to move. All of a sudden, when you're moving, stuff can come through you because you're not thinking so much, and stuff would just come through me. So I'd make notes on my phone. I'd record things. It was everything. When stuff come through me, I just then spill it out, and then I'd get home and I'd start trying to make some sort of organization of it on the computer. And it took a while, and my wife helped me, and that's another thing. Ask for help. I'm not very good at it, but it's a big thing, asking for help. A lot of us are too afraid or too proud or whatever to do it, but we could all do a bit of help in this world, in this life.
Yeah, definitely. there's a few different ways that kind of people can kind of work through some of this stuff. And I think if you're listening to this content and you think, I really want to start to make some changes around that, there's, the easiest gateways are through podcasts, books, and, that kind of stuff. But if someone were looking for someone to kind of work with on maybe a regular basis, you mentioned there about yourself having your own kind of life coach and business coach. What would be your advice on what to look out for when looking for a coach to work with?
Good question. Because everyone is a coach these days, from my perspective anyway. So the people I find, everyone's coaching everyone. And I think some of the big things I've learned is somebody who you align with, you respect, and they have credibility, i.e. they've perhaps done the things themselves. That does help, because some of the business coaches out there, for example, just working from a manual, they haven't actually got a business or done business themselves. It doesn't mean they don't know what they're talking about, but I do think somebody with the actual experience helps. Someone with integrity, empathy, and compassion, I think, are big keys as well. And look around. A coach is huge, because let's be honest, we're talking about a lot of stuff here. You said it earlier. Most of us know what we should or shouldn't be eating. Most of us know we should be going to the gym. Most of us know we could do a bit better in our jobs. Most of us know we have this ability. The problem is, what we're not good at as humans is pushing ourselves to do these things. So one of the biggest things about a coach is having somebody to motivate you and hold you accountable to go and do the things that you just fear doing. It's one of the biggest things. It's the same with a PT. A lot of the time, the great thing about a PT is that you'll go and do the workout because you paid for it. Versus you've got access to Google. You can find out whatever you want these days. You can find a million workouts over the internet, but you ain't going to do it. If you're paying someone, one, you want their experience and knowledge, and two, you want that accountability. I think they're the two of the biggest factors.
No, definitely. And there's ways in which you kind of work with clients, and we'll speak a little bit about that in a bit. But I want to kind of the purpose of this podcast, Make Today Count, is I wanted people to get involved with either new conversations to kind of broaden horizons, or maybe pick up bits of pieces, just of snippets of information that could just help them in all areas of their life. And we're speaking about lots of things today, but we all know that if we start to try and change the world this afternoon, that's not going to work out too well. So what would you say, if someone was listening to this, it kind of resonated, they thought, I've been feeling like this either ongoingly or just this lockdown period has kind of brought on some of these emotions as I go back into work. What would be your kind of one tip, just one small thing that someone could do tomorrow that could kind of not change the world, but just set them on the best path?
That is exactly it. Take action. The biggest thing you could do now is take action. Do something. Buy a book. Get this book. Download another podcast. Take action while you're feeling motivated right now, because it only takes one person to say something, or you'd have a rest bad day and it all gets forgotten. And then you listen to something else next month and next year, and then it becomes that thing you never done. If you take action while you're feeling motivated, go and buy another book, go and download something, whatever, something positive, something that can help you, that will build momentum. And then after that, you take another action, and then another action, and then another action, and then you'll start to see changes in your life, and that's more momentum, and that's how it works. But you have to take action. With all the knowledge in the world, you have to take action. So that would be my biggest thing. Do something today. Do something. Download the course, make the phone call. Just do something while you're feeling motivated. Otherwise, it will just become another thing that you didn't do.
And would you agree that, some of these things just tail off other things? So even if you just said, I'm just going to go for a walk tomorrow, where I never normally go for a walk, I'm just going to go for a walk tomorrow. I don't know about you, Aaron, but I've found that if I just do that, and then I might get an idea for something else, and then I get an idea for something else, and it just kind of has a snowball effect, doesn't it? Exactly
that. It builds momentum. And like you say, it could be just take a walk, but make a decision. Don't say you're going to do something. Make the decision to do something, and then you do it. And then, as you say, what the reason is, because when we do something we said we're going to do, that says to ourselves, I can take you seriously, mate. You're worth it. I trust you. That's confidence building for us. If I say I'm going to go for a walk in the morning and I do it, I feel good about myself. You know, and versus me saying I'm not, because then it's sort of another thing, and I start going, oh well, you're useless anyway. You always say you're going to do things, mate. We start to not trust ourselves. So as we said before, everyone knows their levels, but just anything, make a decision, do something that's different, something that can help you, and as you said, that will gain momentum. You'll feel better about yourself. Then you might come up with do something else, and that's how we begin to build.
You know, another thing that might be worth thinking about is something that definitely works for me is social accountability. So back in January, I decided I wanted to do this Red January thing for Suffolk Mind, whereby you be active for every day in the month of January. And I really wanted to do it. I felt really strongly about the charity, but I thought, how am I going to do this? So I said social media and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm going to record a video every day after I've done this thing. And because you put it out there and you kind of think, well, I've got to do it now. It just kind of gave me the thing to push forward with it. So that's another thing.
Absolutely.
And it hasn't got to be on a social media level. It could just be saying to your partner, saying to your family member, I'm going to do this every day. Keep me accountable, or just check in with me, or something like that. You know, we're a lot better together in these situations. So
100%. It's that accountability again, isn't it? As I say, we're funny old creatures. We're so clever, we outwit ourselves. So we've got to get back to tricking ourselves. We know what we need to do. We need to trick ourselves, make ourselves accountable, you know?
Yeah.
It's good.
So we mentioned coaching before, Aaron, and you've got that, and you've got the work that you do with the businesses and that kind of thing. But what else you got going on? I think there's some stuff you got going on with groups, with working with men and that kind of stuff.
So well, I mean, there's a few businesses. One's the tattoo studio, one's the property investing company. We have the stonemasons, and then the coaching company. But my latest passion, as I say, you know, the book, Yes You Can, is for men and women. It's for everybody. But what I know about business, and to probably help the most people, is to focus more. So I've chosen men because I am one. I can probably relate and help more if I focus on that. And off the back of this, I'm super passionate about creating what's called a man's camp. And the idea is that I'm going to have this sort of 3-day immersive experience for men. It will be this camp where there'll be experiences, there'll be learning information. People will be pushed out of their comfort zones in a safe space. People will deal with mindset issues, bad habits, behaviors, emotional, mental, anger, all these issues that men go through. I mean, as I say, I've been on a lot of courses and I've read a lot of books. So this course will be designed around the best of what I've learned. And that's what I'm really pushing and promoting right now, because if I get enough guys signed up to this thing, it can become a reality. And I honestly and I genuinely believe it can help guys. I've got a link up now on my social media for people to register. And once I've got, I'm building this thing in the background, working with people, some of the greatest people in the industry, army guys and everything. It's going to be very, very well thought out and tailored. So that's what I'd love people to get on board with, and even just show interest to, especially guys. As I say, I'm passionate about it because I know there's a lot of guys out there similar to myself, struggling with mental health, struggling with themselves. They can't speak up. They can't be emotional. They perhaps feel lonely, lost at home, no one to talk to. They don't know what to do. And I believe this is a place and a space for those guys to basically help themselves, you know, have some new sort of ways of looking, thinking at life, by some other people who've sort of been there and done it.
Perfect. So, and we'll pop that link in the show notes on the podcast page, so people can click through.
Thank you very much.
And link through from there. How's the best way to get in touch with you, Aaron? What the best? Is it through Instagram, Facebook, website?
Yeah. So I have a page on Facebook. I'm not actually on Facebook. I have a page on there. I'm not so active on there. As I say, I try to not spend too much time on too much social media. But you can find me on Facebook, which is Aaron Clarke Official, AARON, Clarke with an E, Official, or the same on Instagram. It's Aaron Clarke Official. You can DM me, message me on there, give me a follow. That'd be great. The link is on both pages for the Man Camp. Failing that, you can go to my website, which is www.aaronclarkeofficial.com, and you should see, you can get my book there. There's the audio version, the Kindle version, or you can send, we can send a paperback out in the post, and you can get some more information about me on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Aaron. It's been such a good conversation, and I think, from all the things we've touched upon, I think, for people listening, it'll be such a worthwhile kind of listen around. Just looking at some different opportunities for people and looking at what they could really achieve. I like to finish up each podcast with gratitude. I think it's something super important that kind of shapes our best selves. And so just to say thank you for all you're doing in the world. I think, from your kind of story and being courageous and kind of putting that out there in the book and wanting to document that, to building businesses and inspiring other people from both near and afar, and just for wanting to help people further through all the stuff that you're doing. I think, especially with a book, I think it's something that it's a great way that you can kind of lead a great legacy, and I'm sure that your kids and their kids in turn will be so grateful that they've had that piece of you to keep forever. So
that's amazing.
So
thank you as well, Ross. I appreciate the outlet to be able to spread the word.
No,
it's
and that's
awesome.
a great thing. What's great about these sort of conversations is often they get spurned or by just one interaction. And for me, that was just coming across that piece of content, and now we're in this conversation, hopefully helping more people than we had did before. So no, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you too.
Guys, if there's been anything, before I get into that, actually, we've spoken about lots of different things today about anxiety and different ways of feeling, and I appreciate it's different for everyone. And although some of the things that we've spoken about today may be of helpful, I just wanted to mention that if you are in that space where you're not feeling so great, speak to someone about it initially. Whether it's a family member, you've got someone to trust, or maybe it's a colleague at work. Or if you need to, please feel free to open up and speak to your GP, or there's some fantastic advice lines which we'll put in the comments as well. So, if there's anything that you feel is getting a little bit difficult to handle, have a look there, and there's some great resources there for you. But guys, if anything has resonated with you in this chat, I'd really love you to reach out either to Aaron or myself through social media or via the website. Also, if you haven't already done so, I'd really love it if you could subscribe to the podcast, and more importantly, share this episode with someone. If maybe there's someone in your life that you think's maybe going through some challenging times with some of this stuff, just share the podcast, share the love. We love all of that stuff as well. And also, if you're looking for a great proactive area of the internet to join like-minded people in building quality, efficient, abundant personal brands, head on over to the Elevate community on Facebook. It's a great group there, great bunch of people, really proactive and positive space, and we'd love to have you there. But until next time, I've been Ross Dean. This has been Make Today Count. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.